you're going to find your next empty page in your portfolio, and you're going to take that piece of paper and you're going to lay it upside down. If you want to do this as I'm showing you, that's totally all right as well. You're going to lay it upside down so the head is towards the bottom of the page. And you're going to put it right on top of the paper that you're going to be drawing on. So I'm going to draw on this piece of paper. I'm going to put this drawing right on top of it. And then what I'm going to do, this is the easiest way to do it, I think. If you don't want to do it this way, that's fine. If you want to sit here and measure each of these grid lines, that's fine. But I just think it's easier to do it this way. So you're going to hold it in place, and you're going to take your pencil, and you're going to push down on each of these corners. Like make a little dot on each corner so that you're actually leaving an indent on the paper underneath. So you do kind of have to press hard enough to leave, add enough pressure there to actually leave an indent all the way through on the other side. Because the first thing that we need to set up is this grid. We have to have these 9 boxes on here. And now you're going to have a hard time seeing this. I can see the indents because of the shadows here. But so for your benefit, if you want to do this as well, you can definitely mark them with a pencil on yours so you can see them better when you do use the ruler, if that will help you. But you don't have to have a really thick mark, just enough to see. And then that saves you the time. You don't have to measure any of those grid marks. You don't have to measure anything. Now I can just connect these lines with a ruler, and then I have the exact same size boxes as on my paper. So that is the first step, is just setting up that grid with as little stress as possible. And then the next part we're going to do once you get this done is you are going to draw, you're going to do this drawing upside down as well, but you are going to only be required to do 4 out of the 5 central boxes. So the 4 corners don't count because they're too easy. So if you do the whole thing, I will give you extra credit. But I should tell you right now that extra credit gets added onto your grade at the very end of the term when you have all of your work in. So it won't be added if you're missing things. I'm not going to give you extra credit if you just choose not to do one of the assignments. It can't replace an assignment. So then you have the same size boxes when you've got it all connected. You've got the same size boxes on here as on your sheet. And then again, similarly to the other upside down drawing, do it in parts. Do one part at a time. I've had kids fold these so they're only looking at one square. I've had them just tuck it under it, that's fine. I've had them just cover it up with paper, that's fine also. But remember, this one doesn't count for credit. This one definitely doesn't count. You're not going to get credit for that one little squiggle. This one doesn't count, and this one doesn't count. If you do the whole thing, then yeah, they count for extra credit. But for what you're going to get graded on, you need to do 4 of these 5. There are 5 boxes here. You need to pick 4 of them to do for credit. Now, when you do that, like I said, to be honest, I wouldn't even start out with this whole box. That's a lot of information in one little box. Here, let me get that situated. There you go. All right, so that is a really large chunk of lines to add into that one little box. So you do want to take your time. And at this point, I would switch pencils. I would make sure you're using your HB pencils so you can erase. If you haven't noticed yet, the 4B doesn't erase as well because it's darker. So if you are thinking you're going to make some mistakes, and I'm going to tell you right now, you will, and you'll need to erase if you're not rushing, then go ahead and switch pencils. And what I do, and this is the same technique we'll use for our self-portraits, is I find the center point of each edge. So from here to here, I just kind of eyeball it, and I give myself a little bit of a mark. I do the same on this side, and I do the same along these sides. So I know where the halfway points are. And you know what? I've had kids actually just draw the line all the way through and create a little mini grid inside the grid. And then but then I'm gonna do that to this sheet as well. So then I can see what sort of quadrant those lines fit in. All right, so now I can even narrow it down and say, okay, I'm just gonna look at this one. And so I know that now in this fourth of the box, all those lines need to be there. Now here's the tricky part. When you're doing this, you're not simplifying it. You are trying to copy this exactly how you see it, as close as you can get it. So just because she's got all these little circles for a necklace, it doesn't mean that you're gonna go in and just do this and go, oh, that's close enough to her necklace. Okay? You're not gonna just scribble because it looks kind of like a scribble. If you're drawing one of the flowers on her, it is a she, yep. If you're drawing one of the flowers on her clothing, you're not gonna go, well, I'm just gonna draw a flower. That doesn't look like that one. That's a symbol. You wanna try to draw what is really there. And yeah, count how many petals are really there. It's gonna take some time. Okay, so pay attention to those things. Don't simplify it. That doesn't show that you can draw from observation. It shows that you can draw symbols that you could do before you even got here. All right? So now when you're doing this, again, my advice is to, these are tips. I'm showing you how I would do it. If you have a different way that it works better for you, that's fine. But I think it's easiest to just look at one box at a time, and even there, just look at one tiny area at a time. And then I know in this little corner, there's a tiny little line that is going to be the eyebrow, but don't worry about what it's supposed to be. Just draw the lines, how they relate to each other, and how they relate to the box. Don't worry about what it's supposed to be. Okay, because then you're going to start drawing that symbol that you think it should be instead of what's really here. So same thing, about how far from this edge do I get before I get to that hairline, about right there. And so I'm going to use, I'm going to scoot it over just a little bit. Use what you already have drawn to show you where things are going to go. Once you have the first thing drawn, that's kind of half the battle. Because then you have everything else to compare it to. Now I know, once I'm happy with this part right here, now I know all these other lines that I have to add in have to fit with what I just did. And even if you're just doing one part of the line at a time, that's okay. Break it into its simplest parts. And just take it one tiny step at a time. It will take you some time to do this, so don't rush. Feel free to use the erasers. They are on my table up here, and just put them back when you are